Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I am Ralph LaBella.
And I'm Ron Sen. And the sports world is always a gift to us with lots of things to talk about. Only the NBA can come up with something really unusual. The Bucks were fined $50,000 for tampering with the Greek Freak, saying they would sign him to a maximum contract someday when he becomes eligible for a maximum contract. It seemed like that would kind of be an obvious thing that everyone would know.
That's tampering?
Well, apparently it was. They got a $50,000 fine, which is chicken feed for the NBA.
So they can't talk to their own player about a max contract?
Guess not. So,
wow.
Kind of silly season. And somebody on Sports Illustrated came out that LaMelo Ball, the latest of the Ball brothers, who's playing in Australia because he was not allowed to play in, I think, high school around here because of playing professionally, that they're projecting him as a top 3 NBA pick.
Oh, really?
Well,
the younger one?
Yeah, the younger one.
Wow.
He's 6'7".
He grew then.
Yeah, he can really shoot. However, the knock on him has always been, number one, he doesn't play any defense, and number two, his effort is variable. So we'll see whether he gets older. Maybe he's matured. He's playing in an Australian professional league. So they'll get a good look at him and see whether he's deserving of that kind of pick.
Is he playing right now? Do you know what he's scoring?
No, I don't know what kind of statistics he has.
And how old is he?
I think he's 18, but they said he's 6'7", but I mean he was 6'3" before, so it's possible he's 6'7".
Well, top 3 pick.
Yeah, that's saying a lot. I mean the kid can clearly shoot. Now shot selection, high school wise, he'd get over half court and start shooting, but we'll see. I don't know if you watch any of the Red Sox games anymore. I didn't watch the game, but there was a highlight of Mookie Betts throwing a guy out at third base, on the AstroTurf a ground single down the line to the wall, and Betts fielded it and threw him out on the fly from the fence in right to third base. So they said it was 305 feet of the throw. But anyway, quite a play. Mookie Betts is going to be one of those players that the Red Sox are going to have problems figuring out what to offer, because basically it sounds like he's going to free agency, and doesn't mean he won't sign with them.
Well, you know where he wants to go, Atlanta. That's the word.
All right.
And a lot of people saying the Red Sox should just forget about him and sign Martinez, make sure they get him. We talked about that before. You need that big hitter in the middle of the lineup.
Right.
They'll still have a really good lineup. Who will they pick up as a pitcher? I mean, that's the biggest problem for them.
Right. They have to get something for him because, I mean, he's seeking market value, and market value these days is pretty high.
But, Ron, starting next year, look what you don't know Seal, and they get, what is he getting, $29 million next year?
29.
29 million. You don't know about Price. He's getting $32 million. Evaldi's getting $16 million. I mean, they're in the...
Well, between Evaldi, Sale, Price, and Porcello, they had $95 million worth of
Porcello's
contract.
gone now.
Right. But for the $95 million, I think they had 28 wins, which is pretty pitiful. And Porcello had 13 of those, even though he didn't pitch that great. You give the guy credit; he goes out and pitches. So, but his velocity is down, and it doesn't look good for him coming back to the Red Sox.
You talk about ifs. I mean, if Seal is pitching healthy, if Price is pitching healthy, and Evaldi, they're an entirely different team.
Well, so many of these players who have elbow injuries don't come back at the same guy. So the question is, after he finishes his period of rest and rehab and gets reevaluated by James Andrews, he had this platelet-rich plasma infusion, which I guess it works when it works. It doesn't always work. I mean, Pedroia had all those extra injections of this, that, and the other thing, and he can't play.
But I think that, the one guy you can't count on anymore, well, it's Evaldi for sure. You don't know, but Price. I think he's just going to be an adequate pitcher from here on out. $32 million. How many more years does he have?
I think he's got 3.
Wow.
Anyway, so I mean, for the most part, I guess they were right in that if you pay big money to pitchers on the other side of 30, that you're not going to get your money's worth. The problem is that they felt compelled to do that anyway. There was really fantastic Twitter of a guy who is a civilian in Philadelphia. He's not in the fire department. He was going by a building that's
I saw
the
that.
fire department gets there, and they're rescuing children from the second floor, tossing them out. The guys, we're catching these babies coming out, not like Aguilar on the Eagles, so.
It was funny when they.
In Philadelphia, the fans are brutal. The guy catches 2 touchdowns, and they're still giving him grief because of a fumble and a drop. And all the people I know from Philadelphia have said, yeah, that's how we are. If you make a mistake, we're never going to forgive you.
I know they're not happy right now with the team.
No. There's a lot of teams that are struggling right now. Last weekend was the Melrose Athletic Hall of Fame induction, and it was really an outstanding production. I want to give a big shout out to Nick Schofield, who's the master of ceremonies. Athletic director Steve Fogarty is the chairman of the selection committee, and they had a really interesting presentation and a lot of interesting speeches, as well as 3 hockey teams from history were inducted, including the 1923 Melrose hockey team, which won the Greater Boston League, I guess at the time. They won the Eastern Mass Championship. Then they won the New England Championship. Then they got invited to play some team from Colorado and beat them. So they won the American Championship, and they got invited to go to Canada to play some team and beat them too. So the 1923 hockey team was the North American champion. So for those of us who are old enough to remember the big building on Green Street, Hockey Town, there was, if you go to the Melrose Gymnasium and look at the banners with all the different championships for different years, they have half a dozen teams that won the New England Championship. So Melrose truly was Hockey Town. It's been a long time. I don't think they've won a league champion since 1972. Part of that is because a lot of these other communities have hockey rinks,
Yeah.
which obviously they're going to get premium time. So,
And plus you have the Catholic schools now too. You're losing
Right,
top players
right.
to those.
But there were some really terrific speeches of note. Jim Slattery from the 1989 undefeated team talked about having a broken hand, and he had a cast on, which must have been a big rap because he was playing. In the first half of the game, he scored no points. So on the way to the locker room, his father grabbed him by the shirt and said, "Take off the freaking cast." And he came back and scored 23 points in the second half, led his team to victory.
Yeah, they weren't undefeated though.
Well, anyway, he
They
said,
was undefeated. I remember because I went to all the games.
okay,
That's when we just moved to Melrose, pretty much. And the Green played on that team. Slattery, Chucky Burns,
right.
he played on that team. And the best, real good shooter, I forget his name. That was excellent basketball.
Anyway, Henry Turner was an outstanding swimmer and track athlete in Melrose, and he told a story to start. He said he and his friend were they built a wooden fort in his friend's yard. So it was the end of the summer, it was summer vacation, and the friend decided that it would be a good idea to burn down the fort. So he torched the fort. Henry Turner is sprinting home. He says, "I'm out of there. No way I'm part of that." By the time he got home, his mother had already had a phone call. So the point is, no matter how fast you can run, you're never going to know more than your mother knows about what you're up to.
But wasn't the basketball team, the volleyball team?
Well, we'll get to that.
Oh, okay.
Another interesting message came from Annalisa DeBarry, who won 3 state championships in different sports while she was at Melrose. She was a gymnastics, track, and volleyball, and she was an All-American at Tufts in, I think, the 60-meter hurdles. Well, anyway, she talked about she got an injury before the game. She had a bad cut on her ankle, and they said, "You can't run." So she went over and told her mother, and her mother said, "You only have a superficial injury. You can run." So she said, "So I ran." So once again, parental influence is so big in young athletes. And then the 2012 volleyball team was also inducted, 25-1, the only girls team that had won a state championship. A really fantastic season. A lot of the players were able to be there. Unfortunately, not all of them, but it was good to see the girls, and they're not girls, they're young women, who have gone on, and a lot of them are in teaching. Some of them are in nursing, but it seems like they're all doing really well.
Was Charlie there? Did he speak?
Coach Shelley spoke briefly. He made the point that going to the season, they only had one goal, and that was, after getting to the state finals the year before and losing, was going to the state finals and winning. So he said a lot of years we'll have other goals, winning the league, whatever, but they were laser focused on winning the state championship. And that was a good message for the kids. Now, a lot going on in high school sports. Thus far, Melrose teams are 18 and 19 this season. Football's off to a good start. We're at 2-0. We're going to talk about them. Volleyball's off to their customary good start. They're 7-0, and they're currently ranked 6th in the state by the maxpreps.com computer ratings, and they're in the top 10 in the Boston Globe rankings. So they, along with Linfield, are the big threats to advance in Division II. But they have a very big game this week at Burlington, which will...
How's Burlington?
Burlington's got one loss. They're very strong. So
did they play Woburn yet?
They played Woburn. I don't know if Burlington... I think Burlington beat Woburn. Melrose beat Woburn in 5 sets.
Were they playing at Burlington?
At Burlington. It's a home-and-home series, so Melrose will get a chance here. Melrose has a number of players under the weather right now, but they're competing well. They have a good balance between experience with 7 seniors and a lot of young players who are playing. They have freshman Chloe Gentile in the rotation and 2 sophomores.
The girl that played with her?
Elena Sukos, who's a really good, potentially outside here. Right now she's playing opposite, and Autumn Whalen is in the serving rotation and back row. So add the young players with the experience that they have all over the court. Emma Randolph has been a dominant outside hitter, and Emma and Erin Torpy were profiled in a recent Boston Globe sports section article on outside hitting. So Emma's one of the top hitters in Massachusetts. She's averaging 4 kills per set, and she's in the top 10 in kills.
How's Erin doing?
Erin's doing really well. Erin, I don't know if she was doing personal training or what, but she's got a lot more lift on her jumps, or part of it just being more mature as an athlete. And she's also a player who's played all year round, so she really understands the position. She knows how to use cross court, down the line, short balls, very versatile
How's the back
player.
row doing? Back
row's improved. They were a little shaky at the beginning, and some of that may have just been layoff between the off season and getting going, but they're playing a lot better. I think Mary Kate Mahoney's done a really good job. Nicole Abbott's a returning all-state player, and you have other players rotating through the back, including Emma, Erin, and Sophia Centrella, who's a junior.
So they have it all then, basically.
Yeah,
how do you compare them to the team that won the states? What type of hitters? I remember that team.
Yeah, I think Emma's as good a hitter as Sarah McGowan right now.
She is?
Yeah.
Wow.
She's outside. She's not in the middle. So they don't have the same.
Well, what's her name was outside in that team that won the championship? The girl
Jen
I
Kane, right?
Jennifer Amanda
Kane.
wasn't. Who's that girl that played with McGowan? That played out. She was really good. I said she was the best player in the state. I thought she didn't even make.
Jen Kane. Yeah,
Kane, yeah.
Yeah. So, and then Emily Hudson's doing a really good job in the middle. Chloe Gentile is coming along. So they don't really have a weakness. They have players on the bench that would be starting for, there's no doubt in my mind that they have 2 or 3 players easily that would start for most of the teams.
Well, are they younger, those players? Are they going to be back next year?
Some. We have a girl, Grace Sanderson, who's very tall, outstanding tennis player who can really hit. She just hasn't been able to break through into the lineup, but I'm sure she's going to be an outstanding player.
What year is she?
She's a junior. And Claire Albuja is a senior, and if anything happens to the starters, as they've already got illness, so she'd be able to step in and contribute. And Grace Davis is an outstanding athlete who's been playing the opposite side. She's a good blocker, and she also, her hitting's improved a lot too.
So they must be really excited.
I think they should be excited. Their goal, I mean, I don't think it's crazy for them to think about getting back to the finals again.
How's Linfield, though, this year?
I haven't seen them. Apparently they have a player named Morelli that everybody raves about. So, and they're undefeated. They beat Reading pretty badly.
How's Central Catholic this year? I know Melrose plays them in the final game.
Melrose scrimmaged them earlier in the year, and they did not look as strong. They've looked very good defensively and didn't have a lot of attackers.
So really, they could go undefeated this year, Melrose.
They could. They've got the
Winchester's going to be tough.
Winchester's going to be tough. Burlington's going to be tough in 2 games, and they play Westboro, who are always going to be tough. Westboro's.
Where do they play Westboro?
I don't know where that game is. For some reason, I'm thinking it's on the road this year, but that's been a really good series. And the best part of the volleyball experience is the league's gotten a lot better. So there's hardly any games that are not competitive, and that's much better for Melrose. It's not quite as good if you're a reserve because you don't get as much opportunity because more of the games are competitive.
I mean, and it's going to make them a better team.
Oh, right.
Remember when our daughters played?
Right, there'd be
You
games.
hated playing a Middlesex League game.
Right, a lot of the league games were just not very competitive, and back in those days, Stoneham was one of the better teams.
Yeah, because they had a good coach.
Right,
Volleyball's so important. If you have a real good coach, you're going to have a real good team.
Yeah, they had Coach Viselli, who was very strong. Yeah. I think he moved to Martha's Vineyard or Nantucket anyway. But anyway, so we should talk about football. They're off to a 2-0 start, and had a chance to look at the game film from the other day. And what's really impressive about the play this year is fundamentally they are just so technically sound. The offensive and defensive lines have plenty of size, and the technique I thought was outstanding. Particularly there are a pair of brothers, the Duntons, who they just opened up some gigantic holes, and they're both good-sized seniors, I think over 210, but just technically sound. Good footwork, good handwork. They really sealed off big holes, and Melrose has good skill players. Brendan Fennell must have had well over 100 yards. Billy Pesci must have had over 100 yards as well. And he had a fumble down near the goal line that Sean Herbert was able to come and scoop up in the end zone to get a touchdown. On the maxpreps.com site, a lot of the players have highlight film, which I have no idea how they put that up, but it was really good to see a lot of players and what their individual skills are. So I think Melrose future this year in the Middlesex League has got to be really bright. I was under the impression that Lincoln Sudbury was a competent team.
Look what they did to Melrose last year. I think it was the identical score, but they won. Lincoln Sudbury won
Lincoln
last year.
Sudbury won big last year. And the game was 7-7 after the first quarter. Now, what's new this year is the National Federation of High School rules, including 12-minute quarters instead of 11. And they obviously have been moving some of the times to the middle of the day when there's less concern with mosquitoes. So
some leagues are still going back to the 11 minutes.
Right. There are some leagues that teams are refusing to play the extra time because they have concerns about player injury. And I think that if a league votes to do that, it seems reasonable. However, there was one of the teams, they wanted to play the 12-minute rules because they were concerned they might get banned from postseason play if they didn't adhere to the rules. So
one team forfeited the game because they didn't want to play 12 minutes.
Right. So, obviously the more you play, the more plays that players can be injured. And, everybody's very conscious about injuries, especially concussions. The one study I saw a couple of years ago that looked at neurologic outcomes in high school players who'd played about 40 years ago showed that there wasn't any difference in people who just played up through high school. Now, maybe the players are bigger, stronger, faster, have higher collisions, I don't know. So some good news from the past, but we'll see. But I think the sports programs overall look good. Football looks strong, volleyball looks strong, girls cross country is undefeated, and field hockey's won a couple of games this
2 and
year.
4,
So,
yeah.
and I've seen that they've had some camps and big turnouts. So
What's going on with the soccer teams? I thought the boys' soccer team was supposed to be a power. They're 2
know,
and 4 right now.
I don't know. There's a lot of really strong teams in the Middlesex League. You have the large programs with Belmont, Lexington, and Winchester, which are perennially strong. You have Arlington, which has if you go to Arlington, you see a soccer field everywhere you turn. And then even among the small, Stoneham and Wilmington are both powerhouses. So it's pretty tough sledding for the soccer program. But they've got a lot of good athletes, competitive kids. So you just go out there and see what happens.
Yeah.
We'll be right back. Welcome back. Thought we'd talk a little bit about athletic fees, or probably more appropriately user fees, because I'm sure they extend through other extracurricular activities as well. Melrose has a tiered system depending on, more than anything else, seems like the amount of equipment. Tier 1 is competitive cheerleading, track and cross country, and has the lowest fee at $200. Tier 2 are sports like basketball and volleyball, baseball, that have $300. Tier 3 is football, that obviously has more equipment and more coaches, and that's $450. And hockey is the most expensive at $600, with ice rental ending up costing more, as well as other equipment. And Melrose has a policy for an individual maximum of $1,100 and a family maximum of $1,500, which is still a lot of money. And when I discuss this with coaches from around the country, they mostly are saying, what are these fees about? And obviously it's a high cost of living area, and the fees don't cover all the expenses of the athletic department. Football obviously raises some revenues. And it was interesting to look around and see some of the fees in other communities, at least looking on the internet. Stoneham was $300 per player per sport, and it didn't specifically mention individual or family maximum. Reading had a family maximum of $950. Winchester had a family maximum of $1,300. Lexington had an individual sport cost of $325 with a maximum of $650 per family. And Wakefield came in at the lowest with $175 per player per sport, but a family maximum of only $525. So that was almost a third of what Melrose maximum is. And I don't know what they did, whether it's fundraising, whether they had lower pay for coaches, no idea. But I think it's interesting to see the differences in the different communities, as well as how ingrained the user fees are. I think when my daughters played, it was $275 per person per sport, and I want to say the family maximum was $1,100, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think it's definitely fair, because look at the middle school programs, what they're paying.
Right.
I remember when my daughters were playing, and my son, I think we were paying one year 400 and something.
Well, right.
We were playing in 2 leagues, though.
Right. I think that it's still over $400. Obviously, they buy uniforms when they're in 6th grade. Hopefully, they don't outgrow those uniforms. And then, but if
What are they paying now? You're coaching.
I think it was around $435 last year.
I mean,
that's
so
a lot of money.
I mean, I think it's definitely fair for the high school. It's a maximum of $1,500.
Right.
So if you have 2 children playing 3 sports, that's nothing. I mean, plus they have scholarships for people who can't afford it.
Right. I don't know how they access those. Now, obviously, if you look at playing sports out of season, the costs. I heard that in the Evolution national travel program for volleyball, it's $3,500.
Wow.
And that, I'm sure, doesn't cover anything. if other family members are going, you're talking flying to Phoenix
Is
or
that what
Atlanta.
that's what Chloe was in, right?
I think that's what she was in. So when people say, what kind of investment are these young people and their families making in the sport, it's a big investment in time and also in money. Obviously, within the college ranks, there's a tremendous amount of controversy about the relationships of the shoe companies and how players are funneled to different schools. Supposedly this week, Kansas has been notified by the NCAA that they're going to face sanctions. I haven't heard anything from Coach Sept yet. Usually the discussion is that there's one assistant coach is the designated hitter. In other words, he's going to take the hit. If there's a problem, he'll take the blame. The coach knows nothing, and they walk away. The problem is you can get jail time for this, wire fraud, mail fraud. So the whole concept, I think that it was Duke, where they had, the star player's family was living in some $750,000 house or something, and I suppose there's a follow the money somewhere, but it's really hard to track all that.
Another girl, a girl in the Rivals, I believe it's the Rivals. She's 6'3", and she just signed with UConn.
Well, I don't know.
The Rivals program.
There's a girl named Brookers. You must have seen her, who's going to play for UConn. She's phenomenal.
Yeah.
She looks like a better Porzingis.
Things are going real good for UConn, but she's playing, and the thing about Sam Dewey too is going to be playing at Brooks next year. Mm-hmm. She's playing for the Rivals. They moved her up to the top team, mm-hmm. and I hear she's been playing really good. My friend, whose two of his girls are with the Rivals, has seen her play, and he says she's improved a ton. And there are actually some Division I teams that have interviewed her or talked to her.
Good for her. So the bottom line is, if you want to be successful, there's a tremendous commitment, both time and financial commitment, and a health commitment. Is obviously when we know that single sport athletes face higher medical costs and higher injury risk because of they stress certain parts of the bodies more than others. And it's not as though everyone has their own individual athletic trainer to work on plyometric exercise and strengthening and injury prevention, which is possible, but it's not easy. We'll talk a little bit about the NFL, which is off to I don't know what you call it, shaky start in some ways. A lot of the news hasn't been very good news. Ben Roethlisberger out for the season with an elbow injury, and at his age, you wonder whether he'll be highly motivated to come back.
He was thinking of retiring before the season too, so who knows?
Right. And then the Antonio Brown saga. I guess the question is, what did the Patriots know and when did they know it? They obviously thought that they could work with a player and that there would be enough leadership influences around him, but sometimes these guys march to their own drummer, and
they couldn't have known that there was a civil suit coming out for rape.
I don't know.
They could not have known that. Belichick couldn't have known. Kraft didn't know about it.
Well, you'd think part of their due diligence would have been going to Rosenhaus and saying, are there any legal or other personal background issues that could prove embarrassing to the player, to our team, or our organization? That would be a standard question that you would ask. And it would be contractual too. I guess that stuff is in your contract, that if you violate whatever low standards the NFL has, when you consider through the years, that puts you at risk.
I was hoping it worked out, a talent like him, but the more and more you hear about what he was doing, throwing a couch out of the balcony and almost hitting a kid with it, not paying, for deliveries. It's unbelievable. Not paying his doctor bills. This person he was working, not the female, the person he was working out with didn't pay him, owed someone else $40,000. And the way he's treating women, when you really think about it, it's best that he's gone. Now the big thing is going to be the bonus.
Right. Well, obviously the Patriots didn't pay the $5 million bonus that he was due this week. There's an old saying that obviously is true, that the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior. So I'm sure you see guys in court all the time. They've got a record as long as your arm, and they say, oh no, this guy's, he's reformed, he's a good boy, he's never going to do anything bad again. And you say, like, come on, he was just here last week.
It's funny though, you see some people, every once in a while you see someone come in, and they really, they've turned things around. One person came in, now he's a counselor, and he was always in court for something, drugs or whatever. Now he's a counselor, he looked unbelievable. He's really happy that things turned around. You hope things keep going.
So why is he in court?
No, he was here to help the kids.
Oh, okay.
He was a counselor, one of the kids that was there. But I was shocked when I saw him. He looked better than he ever did. I hadn't seen him in like 5 years. And you see it once in a while. You were hoping that Brown with Brady and the Patriots, maybe changed. Then he goes and sends out that text.
Well,
so now everybody's talking about the bonus. Should he get it or shouldn't he?
Well, the NFL's seen 7 teams start off 3-0, including Buffalo, who the Patriots play this week. Hard to know. The Patriots, let's face it, we're all nervous Nellies about every different thing, whether it's the offensive line and injuries, receivers and injuries, the total absence of a running game so far, the kicking game, which is a mess. So they keep winning and winning big.
It comes down to this: as long as Brady's healthy, with that defense, they're going to score points with him as long as all the receivers don't go down. Now I heard that Edelman may play Sunday, so if he's back playing with Dorsett and Gordon, I worry about the running game. I thought the running game would be as strong as last year, but would win out. Wouldn't will be back after the ninth game.
Andrews is probably really important to the running game too. So you can make up all kinds of reasons. Not having Gronk's in play.
Gronk's a key.
Yeah, Gronk is a tremendous blocker, both around the end and these middle where they do these wham blocks where they let somebody through and Gronk clocks them from the side.
They haven't done what I said they should do. Why not bring in another offensive lineman?
As a tight end, yeah.
As a tight end, as a second tight end, like they did with who was the guy they let go from used to play for Indianapolis? The guy they let go, the tight end who never caught passes, but they had him. He was a good blocker. What? Just bring in like when they used to do it Williams.
Right.
Remember they used to bring Williams in, and he used to be a tight end. Let him bring in an offensive lineman. You're not throwing to your tight ends anyway.
Right. No, it's a reasonable suggestion, and maybe they're going to do that, but they're just not talking about it. So
But I'm happy with where they are. The defense has been unreal. Pittsburgh was a good team going into that game.
Right.
They were pretty healthy.
Well, defense didn't give up any points on Sunday.
Oh, they're gonna really aggravate me dropping that kickoff.
Right. All he has to do is catch the ball. We've seen this before with Harper and Riley.
Harper got cut right away.
Yeah, and he might as well just come back to the sideline and.
But
kept
this
walking.
Gunner, he's too talented.
Riley McCarron, same thing.
Yeah.
He was gone.
But he's going to be a good receiver. So he's going to be another Edelman, I'm telling you.
Well, we'll see. Anyway, he got a little bit of extension on his rope. Anyway.
But how about the linebackers though?
Yeah, they're.
Collins
was outstanding the other day, the last game.
And he'll be good against Kansas City too when they face Kansas City.
Of course, Hightower's hurt.
Bad? His shoulder, right?
They didn't say what the extent of his injury is. The injury list comes out on Wednesday, so we'll see how that goes. Looking at the predictions, the Patriots are 7-point favorites in that game. Obviously, the home underdog is a popular bet in the NFL, and but I don't think people have that much faith in Josh Allen.
27-13. What would you pick?
Probably lower, maybe 24-16, something like that. But in the absence of Antonio Brown, all the discussion about 19-0 went away pretty fast.
Why? They're going to be the favorite in every game they play.
They can't run the ball at all.
That's now. Things are going to get better.
Well, let's hope so. But elsewhere around the league, Kansas City looks really strong again. Mahomes since he stopped throwing the no-look pass, was able to complete some. And Kansas City's defense looks a little bit better. I don't know about Lamar Jackson. He's a little inconsistent with Baltimore. So wonderkind Baker Mayfield didn't get it done against the Rams.
I saw that whole game.
Yeah.
That was a good game.
It was pretty compelling. It was hard to turn it off. So like you, I didn't. And Green Bay, I think, is 3-0. They're off to a good start. Detroit is 2-0-1. So they
had a big win Sunday.
Who'd they beat Sunday? Somebody
Philly.
decent. Oh, yeah. Okay. And Jimmy G is 11-2 as a starter.
Threw 2 interceptions in the first quarter last week.
But you do sort of wonder if he trailed off in the second half and San Francisco didn't pick up his contract, would he end up back here?
Yeah,
So,
especially after the interception that puts his name through.
Yeah.
But I think he's going to be really good, though.
Yeah, that was one of those. Like, I don't know if sometimes players aren't used to the crown of the field. Like Buffalo's, that's been a big problem through the years. But they weren't. That wasn't at home, so you really shouldn't have that issue.
When have you seen Brady ever do that? And that type of a pass?
Yeah. No, it was, he really airmailed that one. It was a really terrible pass. So, let's see. And Gostkowski's missed 3 extra points. He looked better the rest of the game after that first one that he went wide right.
You got to think that he'll go on a streak where he's hitting everything.
Yeah, I know Belichick says that it's not just Gostkowski, there's the whole field goal operation, new holder, with Bailey. Bailey did a good job punting. The other
real
day.
good.
He
gets that ball up there. You're not going to return his punts.
No, and Slater was incredible on special teams.
Just that one play, he's going to be all pro again.
Yeah, that was impossible. He caught the ball in the one and kind of batted it back into the field.
What's he been all pro 6 years in a row?
I don't know if it's 6 years. I think it's 7 times altogether. So, it's interesting that a guy who was, I think, a 5th-round draft choice, and I mean, I think his dad's in the Hall of Fame. Jackie Slater is an enormous offensive lineman. He talked. There was an article where he talked about he and his brother had this big hill that they had to run up all the time as kids, and his father would just constantly push him to run up this hill. So he says, just got used to it. That was part of the thing, doing the hills.
Belichick loves him too.
Right, and they're talking about him as becoming the player character coach after his retirement. So we'll see how that goes. We'll be right back.
7, Melrose Red Raiders.
Well, we have a potpourri of remaining sports, the Bruins, the Celtics, and baseball. But all you can say about the Bruins so far is they made a couple of reasonable contract signings, Charlie McAvoy for under $5 million and Brendan Carlo for two and change. So they've got those guys in the fold. They're defending finalists, so we'll see how they do. Everything sort of fell their way last year. They didn't have to play Tampa in the playoffs. They didn't have to play Washington in the playoffs, the two teams that have really given them fits. So we'll see.
Yeah, Carlo, I read something where they said that he's excellent defensively, very good skater, good passer. They want him to attack more often, and he's not as comfortable as the other guys are, but he wants to work on it. But he still says that, his number one job is defense, and he had an excellent year last year on defense. He's going to be one of those players who just keeps getting better and better. They're going to have when they go back 3 years ago when they were knocking their defense. And their defense right now is one of the best in hockey. You just got to hope that the key players stay healthy.
Well, I guess Char is on I don't know if it's a vegan diet or something.
He looked good.
Close. Yeah, so he's doing everything he can to. Maybe he's on the TB12 method.
I think Coyle's going to have a big year. I think he's going to have a real big year.
He was pretty good in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So overall, there's reason to be optimistic, and it's easy to say the Bruins let people down in the finals. We don't know about the injuries. They had, God knows how many surgeries people had at the end.
They got out hit though.
Yeah, no.
I think they were intimidated a little. I mean, the first goal is a check against the boards. They come up with the puck, center it, and they score the first goal. When the Bruins were dominating that first period.
No question St. Louis was physical, and that was harmful. The Celtics are getting going. It'll be interesting to see. Now, there's one way to say is that the poor showing of the U.S. at the World Cup with 4 Celtics on it, maybe the talent level isn't as good as it seems. Now, Tatum was hurt for part of it. Brown has been up and down. He's in a contract year. So the question is, will these guys mesh and play much better? There was a lot of discussion now that the NBA is not about threesomes, it's about twosomes with LeBron and Davis and Kyrie and Durant. Durant's out for the year, so there's not going to be any twosome there.
LeBron and Davis, they're not going to do anything. They'll be 500,
and then,
that team.
And then the Celtics with Kemba and Hayward. Hayward presumably will play better since he's farther away from his injury. And then I don't know what to think about Tatum at times was indifferent defensively and took a lot of mid-range shots that weren't the greatest. Brown is consistently inconsistent. He's really athletic. Okay, highlight dunks are still worth 2 points. So he did well in the World Cup defensively, and maybe listening to Popovich and Steve Kerr maybe learn something.
Give me the top 5 players. Start from the top player down to
on
the
the Celtics.
Fifth. Yeah, who do you think's the best player?
Oh, Kemba Walker.
Yeah, keep
All
going.
Right. I think Walker's number 1. 2, I'm going to say it's going to end up being Hayward this year. 3, Tatum. 4, Brown. 5, I'll say that Williams is going to come out of nowhere and be better. So okay. I don't know if he's going to get enough playing time. I'm intrigued by this guy, Poirier, that they signed from France. I've watched video on him. He's decent in the pick and roll. I know I'm discounting Cantor. Cantor's a good rebounder. He's pretty solid. But Poirier is also, he's really good rolling to the basket and then dishing out to the perimeter, which is a big part of their game. And his feeling is that the Celtics play a very European-style basketball that he's comfortable in. So,
All right, I'm going to say, I can go down to the top 8 players, but to me, the top player on the team, the best player on that team is Hayward. He's number 1. The second best player is Walker. The third best player is Cantor. The fourth best player is Brown. And I hate saying it, the fifth best player is Tatum, who was I loved him.
I know you love Tatum.
I love Tatum, but he was a disgrace last year. He was an absolute disgrace. He killed him. He was the one player that killed them. Besides Kyrie, Hayward couldn't play with Kyrie, and the other guys couldn't play with him. But Hayward's the most talented player on that team. When you talk about setting up people, I mean, I think he's going to come back and have an unbelievable season this year. And if he's the best player like I think he's going to be, then the Celtics could beat Milwaukee.
Well, Hayward is, Walker is a very ball-centric player, almost like Kyrie. So it's not like you have a guy who just passes the ball. He does a lot. He does a lot on the pick and roll. I'm sure he'll be decent with Cantor. Cantor and Tice both apparently were in the top 10, and they keep statistics on blockouts. So maybe the Celtics will be better on the defensive boards.
People don't understand how good Cantor is.
Yeah, Cantor's and he's not old. He's 27,
he's
right?
27, and Horford's 33, whatever. But look at their stats over the last 3 years. If you average them out, Cantor averages 14-point-something points and 10.7 rebounds, playing 25 minutes, 26 minutes.
Yep.
25, 26 minutes. Horford playing about 30 minutes, averaged 1 point less and 2 rebounds less.
Well,
than
Cantor's not a
Cantor.
great defender. I mean, that's, we'll see.
But he's the type of player they need. He lives on the boards. He bangs the
Right.
boards. He's going to get a lot of.
Yeah, Horford wasn't, he was a good player, but he wasn't a superstar, and he wasn't a super physical player. Cantor's a physical player.
But if Hayward is not their best player, they're going to just be pretty good.
If Hayward plays like he played last year, they're not going to be any better.
No, because you can't count on Brown and Tatum because mentally they're just not tough enough yet. They're good. If things are going good, if Hayward's playing real good and Walker and Cantor's banging the boards, then they'll fit in and look really good.
Probably the worst thing for the Celtics was their success the year before, getting to the Eastern Conference Finals with Rozier, Brown, and Tatum. So then those guys got big heads. They thought they were all that, and they weren't all that in the end.
And then what about Stevens letting Brown take almost as many 3-point shots as 2-point shots?
Well,
Keep shooting.
That's their style of play
But
now.
Brown and Tatum, their game should be taking the ball to the hoop strong. Then if they're wide open for a three off the offense.
Well, I remember Tommy Heinsohn said everything goes in cycles. So now it's threes, but what will happen is as the defense extends to cover the threes, there's going to be a lot more pass and cut opportunities to attack the rim.
Well,
that's why you got guys who can do that.
But you knew what my complaint was about threes. Like you say, you average more points by taking threes than
Right.
twos. But like I argued is that you get the long rebounds for fast breaking, and you're not shooting a higher percentage. If you're shooting twos, you get a higher percentage. Plus, if you're shooting twos, taking the ball to the hoop, you're getting the other team in foul trouble.
Well, and we also know that maybe when you come down to Game 7 and your style is shooting threes, you tighten up a little bit and you're not making them. So that happened to both the Celtics and the Rockets. So if you live by the three, you die by the three. You've got to be able to score consistently with something. And it certainly broke down for the Celtics and the Rockets 2 years ago. And to a degree, it broke down last year for Golden State.
Well, the injuries.
Yeah.
The injuries killed them. They would have won if they didn't have injuries.
Well,
They would have even won without, if Durant was still out, they would have won.
right. Now, the interesting part, Durant's come out and said he never felt accepted or comfortable, even though he was finals in the MVP finals twice for Golden State. And, Kerr is a guy who preaches culture. So it's hard for me to believe that, Durant, sure, he had something like 1.9 less shots per game, but that's
What's
not
the number
significant.
one reason? You know that. Why he wasn't comfortable with Golden State. Everybody would pick that.
Green.
Green.
Green's a knucklehead.
How can anybody feel comfortable playing with him?
Yeah, Green is he's not Rodman, but he's kind of that direction.
But I think they're going to be good. The team I would pick to come out of the West is Golden State because they have Russell now. And the key there is, and people say, well, Russell, with Curry and all that. Yeah. But when Curry sits now, you got Russell in there.
Right.
You got a very good offensive player, where last year they didn't when he had to sit.
Well, they lost a lot
And
off.
Thompson was
Iguodala's gone, and Livingstone retired, so we'll see how their bench is. But, the West is always going to be interesting. There was something about Kyle Kuzma is hurt for the Lakers, so they're already.
Oh, he's hurt. That's right, because he didn't play in the He was playing
I
on
think
that.
it was foot. You know, and
US
foot,
team.
foot injuries on big guys can be.
That's a big loss if Kuzma's. If Kuzma, they won't win. They won't go 50%. If Kuzma's out,
Well, and LeBron is 100 years old. I mean, he'll probably still be great, but he's getting up there. Every year it takes some toll on you.
but the one thing we do is, as Celtic fans, they have a chance.
Right.
If it all comes together, they have a chance. You know.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be more interesting than last year. And,
Oh yeah.
You know, and we didn't even talk about the draft choices. So
Oh,
maybe-
Edwards
right, one of
coming
those-
off the bench.
maybe you're
Or
right.
Williams.
Somebody steps up.
And then the number one pick from Indiana, he didn't play.
Right, we never saw him.
In the
so-
summer, I mean, if he takes the ball to the hoop well, not a great shooter. I mean, Edwards is the guy. He's going to come in and he's going to bury those threes. There'll be times where he's not hitting them, but he's an offense.
Yeah, he's sort of Dana Barros-like, you know, type of perimeter player that could really be exciting for us. Well, we have the
Yankees.
The Yankees, no Red Sox. The Red Sox can polish up their golf clubs.
How much better is it for me? The Red Sox are out and the Yankees are in.
You know, I have to root for the Twins because I can't
You
root
don't
for
root
the
for the
Yankees.
Yankees?
No, I can't root for the Yankees. But
They got a bunch of good guys, the Yankees.
no, I know they did a tremendous job this year with backup players. They had no Ellsbury. Stanton didn't see the field.
He's back though, Stanton.
Oh,
I was hoping he didn't come back, but he's been hitting good.
Severino, they missed him.
You see what he did the other day?
No.
Pitched 5 innings, struck out 9, didn't walk a batter, gave up 2 hits.
Wasn't there some domestic issue with Hermain?
Hermain, he's out. You know the sad thing about that is he's out. He can't play. They were getting him set to be a long relief pitcher in the playoffs because he was coming in. The last 2 times he pitched, he was pitching in relief. You know, 3-4 innings of shutout ball, and then he comes up with this domestic. So they suspended him for the rest of the season.
Okay, well.
But you got Paxton who's pitching really good, and Severino.
Paxton's pitched better.
So you don't know. I mean, any of those teams can win it.
Right. I mean, we don't know yet among Oakland, Cleveland, and Tampa. I mean, 2 of them get in, but
Tampa's playing the Yankees, I think, 3 games now.
yeah, but the Yankees are going to be trying or just.
Well, they're a half game behind Houston for the best record, so you got to think they're going to want to win.
Yeah. Okay.
Plus, they're so deep. Whoever they put in, you know, is going to.
Oh yeah, and they're going to have trouble finding a playoff
Torres
roster.
is hurt though, I hope, and Sanchez is hurt, so I hope they're back for the playoffs.
Well, Sanchez has been hurt a lot of the year. I mean, good play. I mean, what does he have? 35 homers, something like that. I mean,
How about Torres? 38 homers. What a deal that was, huh?
Yeah, I mean, now the issue for the Red Sox is who's staying, who's going. Betts obviously is going to test free agency, so the question is, do the Red Sox trade him for the best deal they can get, realizing that he's going? You know, that's how it is.
Well, you're the general manager. How would you handle it now? How would you handle it? You know you got the other guys. You got Martinez and you have Betts. Season ends. You sit down with Betts. What are you going to do?
Yeah, well, I'd try to sign Martinez so I have something guaranteed for whatever you have to do, 4 years, $30 million a year. We probably have to overpay. And then I auction Betts to the highest bidder for whatever I can get.
But do you give him an offer before you do it?
I get my offer. I get my best trade deal lined up first, and then I give him an offer.
And
So
what would you give him? What would your offer be? What's your highest?
8 and 280.
8 and 280?
Yeah.
That's a good offer.
Yeah, that's real serious
I
money.
mean, that's a real good offer. I was thinking 10, 350. But if he says no to that, then hey,
yeah, right.
sign Martinez, let him go. Devers is going to be not the same type
Well,
player,
before
but a
we
better hitter.
talked about Dallas offering Dak Prescott $30 million a year and him turning it down. You're like, what are you, nuts? I mean, $30 million. Wow. Anyway,
But that's the way you have to go, though, with them.
and then Holt. You can't. I mean, Holt's fine, but you're not going to pay him $10 million a year to be a part-time player.
I think that he should get $7 million.
Yeah, I think he's gone, and then Pierce is gone.
You think Holt's gone?
Yeah, I think so. I think Moreland's gone. I think.
They're not going to want Holt to go.
Does Castillo's money come off the books next year? I think it does.
Sure.
They're still paying him. I think Sandoval's money comes off the books next year, and Porcella's $20 million. That's gonna be gone. It'll be interesting to see if you sign Martinez, you're probably going to play him in the outfield. Benintendi was a tremendous disappointment this year. He basically did nothing the second half of the year.
Yeah.
It seems that they found out that he can't hit fastballs up. So he's just seeing nothing but fastballs up.
They got to find an outfielder if they let Betts go.
Right.
But what about Chicago? Theo was in Boston Sunday, and Chicago lost 6 in a row, 5 or 6 in a row. They're just about out of it.
Well, if Theo wants to come back, the question is, do they want him back?
I don't know why they want him, because they almost threw him out when he left.
We had the gorilla suit
You remember
before.
when he left?
Yeah, right.
He made like 5 terrible moves in a row before he left. That's the reason why he wanted to get out. Things were going bad here in Boston. Red Sox fans don't remember that.
Well, I want to say that the surprise move they're going to do is make Raquel Ferreira their general manager. She'll be the first female general manager. But
He'd have added Theo.
But it's probably more likely. It's probably more likely to be Romero, because they already re-signed the whole scouting staff, and then they got rid of Frank Wren. LaRusse is going to stay.
Yeah, I know. And
I'm surprised.
Didn't Dombrowski bring him in?
Yeah. I mean, they must like him. He must have a relationship with Henry and Werner.
How does Dombrowski feel, huh? You win the World Series last year.
Well, he did what he does wherever. He bankrupts the farm system, trades prospects, spends money, and then...
Yeah, but what did he do last year, though?
No, I'm saying
he signed Evaldi for nothing. $4 million. I think they paid Evaldi last year $4 million.
Right,
he made mistakes this year.
Right.
He brings in Pierce. There are 2 big reasons why they won it last year, Evaldi and Pierce. 2 big, huge reasons, and he made both of those deals. Made a bad deal by signing Evaldi to that contract.
Right.
He gave Pierce $7 million for 2 years.
Well, you're making bets, and you make these big bets, and sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't. Just like.
But how don't you give him another year? It's got to be that Henry doesn't like him. Henry's at odds with him. Or his wife, maybe.
Well, I think it's you have 2 choices. You build the farm system, or you buy players, and it's, I don't care. There's not a person on the planet, including billionaires, who say I have too much money. So Bob Kraft isn't lowering the ticket prices at Foxborough, and people ask me, is Antonio Brown going to get another chance somewhere?
See you next year.
The answer is
definitely.
It's sort of, to be slightly sexist about things, pretty girls always get asked on dates. Antonio Brown is that version of it from a football standpoint. He's a pretty darn good football player, so somebody's going to give him a chance.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be next year, though, because you got to see what happens, though, with these charges, with this civil suit.
Right.
You got to see if there's criminal charges that come out. So, you don't know about that.
Usually when there's, like they say, there's never one cockroach. So there's probably some other stuff that we don't even know about yet that's even worse. I've enjoyed being with you tonight. I'm Ron Sen.
And I'm Ralph LaBella, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Sports.